So I'm Joel Moxley. I'm here with Stuart Macmillan, and also Dave Danielson is joining in spirit, and we are the ETC, or Energy Transformation Collaborative Teaching Team. So I know we're on day 4, and we're in the afternoon. How are the energy levels? Are they okay? So just for my feeling, Earth Sciences and Engineering, can I get hands on who's there? And then how about GSB? Okay.
Awesome.
Got it. Is there anybody here that knows they want to start a company, and that is the goal of why they're here? They definitely want to start a company. Raise your hand. Okay. And then is there anybody that wants to work at a startup or kind of was thinking startups, kind of anybody that's in that category? Okay. So what I'll say is that I am a chemical engineering PhD, and when I was in your seat on orientation, I wanted to work for a big energy company. That's what you did. I did all the things. I did my internships. I knew I had to go to graduate school. I thought I was going to graduate and go to a big energy company. And I got exposed to an ecosystem, and that totally changed the course of my life when I knew what was possible there. And so this is a little bit of the, the spirit behind the course. So we're going to talk a little bit about, kind of what the course is and the vision and the why now. We'll talk about the teaching team. Focus on the projects that we've done with the students and kind of talk through some of those stories. So we'll give 2 examples there, and then we'll just go into Q&A. And we have a lot of teams. We can talk through a lot of different angles, but that's what we're trying to do here. Okay. So we think, as the teaching team, that energy and climate is the defining challenge of our generation. My guess is that everybody agrees with us here. That's why you're sitting down. But what we want you to realize is that right now, we have to start the companies that will make that impact. If you want to hit an 80% reduction in greenhouse gases by 2050, that means you need to be starting the new ventures in 2016 to 2020 so that you can achieve the scale and the commercial production and the scale out of that over those next few years. So the people seated in these seats must be the ones to kind of push these new ventures forward. And that's the why now, and that's why we're so excited about pushing forward this class. So our model is that you're going to be on campus focused on becoming an expert in exactly your focus area. You'll be working with the best faculty talent in the world, the premier engineering talent, the premier business talent, and you'll be focused in on this. The objective of our class is to go combine those things and to help form an ecosystem. So we will put together an interdisciplinary team with you, give you access to experts that probably wouldn't return your call if you just tried. We try to create that network where you're talking to all different kind of industry leaders, venture capitalists, kind of other entrepreneurs, the whole Stanford ecosystem to kind of plug in and help around your project. And then we want to go and refine and test your thesis. So a little bit of the structure of the class is that you'll be on a project team. Basically, I'll show you some of these project teams. You'll go through this class and you'll be building towards a pitch. You'll have people like Vinod Khosla, giving his perspective, Jagdeep Singh, professors like Yi Shui. You'll have all of those people evaluating you every week. There'll be 2 elements over the 10 quarters per class, so a total of 20 elements. And at the last presentation, you will have a who's who of the energy world evaluating your slide deck to talk about the project that you're doing. So a little bit on the teaching team. So again, when I was seated in your seats, I happened to go to MIT, PhD in chemical engineering, and Dave Danielson was the one who had founded the Energy Club at MIT and built that ecosystem. Since then, he's worked in venture capital. He was the founding program director at ARPA-E. He was the Assistant Secretary of Energy, confirmed by the Senate. He oversaw $10 billion of clean energy innovation, and he's now a managing director at Breakthrough Energy, which is a Bill Gates-funded clean energy innovation initiative. So basically, does not get a better profile than that, and that's Dave Danielson. Second, Stuart Macmillan, the most modest one. He will never fully tell you his full background, but he, among many other things, basically operating as a pillar in the Silicon Valley ecosystem for a long period of time, currently the chief scientist at NREL, the National Renewable Energy Lab, the biggest national lab focused on clean energy, and has been teaching this class for now more than a few quarters. And then finally me, I got my PhD, and for all the faculty in the room, I published my papers. I had almost 10. However, I also bet on baseball, and I took $500 with some friends. We turned it into $340,000 in 4 months by betting on baseball. That's the power of an innovation ecosystem. I helped. I rolled that into working within venture capital and starting my own companies. And so I have been a part. I was the CEO of Foro Energy, which is a large RPE awardee. Biota Technology, co-founder and a founding investor and board member of Rubicon Global and Zero Mass Water. Companies that I've helped start or am a founding investor of have raised over $200 million and have well over $1 billion of private market capitalization. I'm invested in about 30 kind of total early stage companies. This is, I live this, I sleep this. This is all that I think about. My text messages are filled up with the former students in this, my WhatsApps. Everything is kind of focused on helping build these companies. I love doing it. And we're going to show some people that I'm very intimidated by, honestly. These are kind of some very, very big people in the energy ecosystem that are former teachers of this class. And what we want to focus on here is that you're kind of a part of a lifetime, it's a lifetime membership to this network around Stanford. And it doesn't get more powerful than this. Stuart, how many people email you that are alums on a weekly basis that have been through the project? 100. Yeah, 100. I get, there was Thomas from the Perovskite project. He's got a big meeting in the UK on Monday, so he WhatsApped me from Europe and said, hey, can we talk about it on Friday? This has been a great opportunity to just help connect in all of the resources because our teaching team doesn't have everything that you're going to need, but we try to kind of take that Stanford innovation ecosystem and be focused in on the specific parts that are different about energy. Building a software company or a purely focused software company is different than building an energy company. What things can you take over from that and what things are different? So that's where we're focused in on basically a great network, a lifetime membership to the Stanford innovation ecosystem. So, we can talk about the technologies and the specifics. This one happens to be out of one of the leading material science labs at Stanford. But I don't want to make that the focus. I want to make more of how these teams came together, students like you. So we had, let's start with Chris. He's a postdoc in the lab. He was coming up with the materials innovation, helping write the IP, basically pushing forward the papers. And then he was linking up with Dan. And Dan wanted to start a company. He was one of the people that raised his hand, kind of early on in this presentation. And so he wanted to go push that forward. Dan actually brought together a team, and two of the members are the Stephs. So we have Steph from GSB who focused all in on the markets, and then Steph who was focused all in on the manufacturing from her chemical engineering background. And so these people will come together in the class, and they'll form the nucleus of this team. They will go call everybody in the industry. They'll put together the slides, and they'll help, kind of go create this initiative. And so, Dan actually emailed me a few weeks ago, talking about where he should locate his startup. I mean, this is his life now, along with some of them. And that's really cool when you watch a project and then that goes and becomes a real company or a real initiative. So there's many examples of this, and I think that this is a particularly nice one from the last quarter of the class. So to give you a little bit more feel of that particular project, we'll talk about this profile where it's a bottoms up, there's a technical innovation, and let's go put a business around that technical innovation. The technical innovation was being able to quickly switch between fully opaque windows and kind of totally transparent windows. You can see in that left-hand bar over there, that's actually a reflection. It is a complete, completely opaque window that they're looking through this glass. So we help them get in touch with a lot of the potential customers, focus in on going after kind of markets where you have, kind of a high starting price and that are a great first market to go after, and then stepping from, for instance, sunroofs in a Tesla to automotive glass to architectural glass, and hopefully eventually redefining how we use space. If you're ever in a Starbucks, you'll notice that half the space really isn't used because there's the glare from the sun. So basically how we control light entering our environment has a huge impact on energy, climate, and a lot of other things, and this is a company that's spinning out, and we're excited about it. So let's go to another example, and this is a little bit of a different profile. This wasn't just a professor that had an innovation and we wanted to put a company around it. This was a really interesting one, and it was led by Tim, and he put together this unbelievable team of GSB and Earth Sciences and all different kinds of backgrounds. And so, really kind of the focus here was, we all know what's going on with natural gas, horizontal drilling, hydraulic fracturing. what would it mean if you could take what's happened in the past 10 years, which has been transformational for natural gas, rewiring energy across the world, and basically apply it to geothermal, the biggest baseload renewable power that we have. And so Tim was thinking about this for years and years and years. And a lot of people have kind of looked at what would it take to do this. I actually had a meeting with Vinod Khosla, and he was kind of very interested in this. And there's a lot of other similar stories of people that wanted to do that. So actually, as part of the class, we convened a team of kind of the who's who. So we have 2 earth sciences people studying all the hydraulic fractures in these formations. We had analysts. We had people like Megan and Diego. Megan working for Baker Hughes, one of the service companies that supplied this equipment. Diego working for different energy companies, basically helping plan these projects. And as part of this, there's a company that's coming out of this. We'll talk a little bit about it, but it's essentially doing the first ever multi-stage hydraulically fractured geothermal well. That's cool. I believe that as part of this class and as part of this project, we will get that, and that's, that gets me fired up. So, I'm going to move over to kind of questions and have Stuart come up, but yeah, welcome to campus, and we'd love to tell you more about the innovation ecosystem that we're trying to build specifically around energy here.
I guess how often are you seeing that there might be an idea that started in this class, it goes through this whole process, it turns out that the idea is not ready, it's not fully baked, but those people then go into another opportunity because they've been connected with someone else from the coursework who says, hey, I like your idea, it's not there yet, but come help out enough. Do you see that happening?
Yeah, well, that's actually quite common. They'll have an awesome team that you can throw almost any problem at, which will generate a great company. And the truth is, within 10 weeks, that idea, even if it was well baked coming into it, it changes dramatically over the time. So either way you play it, it's a big change in what it is they think they're going to pursue as a thesis. And some teams reform, right? You'll find sometimes a team will park and come back for a while. So one of the slides we just pulled, this one here was a person who may have a problem who went off and did a project with food in India. He has now come back this year as a postdoc, right? And we'll pursue it again. And we're talking with him about re-engaging with the class, getting a dream team together, and going after this one more time. So it has lots of different pathways.
And I'll use another example to Stuart. So that project that you saw in geothermal, Tim actually took our class the previous quarter and was focused on investment innovation. So basically different investing models into the space. And actually from that class put together some of the team members that you saw there. So we took it again with this specific project. And that's a great outcome for the class. More questions?
Can you say when as the class? Like how, when, where, how?
So when it's EC, it's Wednesday afternoons, 2:30. And there's a time reserved before that to meet individually with the team. So every team meets with the teaching team to go through whatever is happening. And that's usually as much happens in that block of time as in the class where it's. And so typically Wednesday afternoons are in one form or another pretty used up.
Okay, but our teams assemble pre-class.
Great question. So we're getting more and more pre-assembled teams coming in who have well-formed theses. But we're also having groups like that who are missing people. And so we find a little dating goes on in the first class between people joining existing really well-formed ideas and also spawning new ideas. And so we have a little bit of both, but the truth be told is the tendency more is that team and theme are more well-developed coming into it. We spent the entire summer interacting with prospective teams and themes, right, coming in for this quarter. But we've also reserved a block for brand new, right? People coming in who've been thinking about something for a while or who've already hooked up with 2 or 3 other people who absolutely want to pursue something, but the what is migrating, right?
More generally about campus entrepreneurship here. Let's say I have an idea and I don't know at all how to bring it to fruition. Is there somewhere on campus that's kind of a one-stop shop for the questions I'd have?
So there's great places, and there isn't just one. There is folks you can talk to, like Brian at Tomcat, StartX. I mean, there's just, Stanford has probably one of the most wonderful ecosystems, pure plays. If you're at a very early stage, you're trying to think through what it is you want to do, you may want to take Steve Blank's class, right? And reaching out and actually understanding with engagement with customers about what would really resonate, what's a real problem, what isn't. So we rely a lot, right, on you either taking as a prerequisite some of these things, as a co-requisite, right, or hitting the web and taking the 4-hour fast version, right, of some of these courses that give you a background in some of the different areas.
Earlier this morning, we got some advice from the Tomcat Center saying, don't start your companies while you're still in your education. Like, live out the time of your education and then get going afterwards. I'm curious, with a program like this, would you say it'd be better to take a class, take this class specifically at the end of our education or more towards the beginning? I mean, ideally at the end?
So there's a couple of, I actually agree with that in general, but there are exceptions. And so there are people who actually join teams, really have no intention of making this their life, but wanted the experience. And so a couple of quarters back, we had someone from the law school, awesome team member, incredible contributor. And the takeaway for that person was, I don't think I want to be an entrepreneur, right? Which was really good. And so it happens a lot of different places. We'll have people who fill out an existing team, who are people who are later stage, and have finished coursework, maybe their thesis is well developed and so on, and they can pursue almost all their life on this one here. But you'll have people join the team who can't commit nearly as much time, right, and are earlier in their stage, but they're using it to explore the whole experience.
Typically, our projects are unincorporated. It's a great mechanism, per that advice to kind of test out, different relationships and, whether you want to do the company and things like this. And then specifically on the timing, we've had several people take the course multiple times as part of different projects. So it's really kind of personal preference on, some people will take the class as a participant and then they'll become a leader later. And, we anticipate different models, for people there.
Do you think, so we've heard also earlier today that we need to roughly triple the amount of capital going into clean tech in order to meet our carbon goals. Do you think that that's sort of like we need better ideas so that venture capitalists are interested, or do we need to get VCs more interested in it, that like the slower payback compared to software startups? What's your
So our opinion and what we build this class around is if you can reduce the cost of building these companies and you can build them faster, reduce the time it takes to build these companies, that all of a sudden you're right in that venture capital sweet spot. And so we think that the best thing that we can do as a class to kind of help spur more investment is to really hit those same metrics that would be in other parts of the venture capital ecosystem. However, we have projects that are not venture capital profile projects, and so we try to kind of cover both, and have an all of the above strategy on it. Specifically, what we do on cost and time is this. So on cost, we have a set of playbooks. I've been a part of building enough companies, as Stuart has, to know that there's no magic formula to building any of these companies, but there are tried and true mechanisms and things that you can use to help do it less expensively, work with partners earlier, and just overall decrease the cost. On the time, we think that that's just getting people out to their strategic relationships, customers, things like that faster. And so as part of the class, we want to just make it much faster to have you find that first customer, have you be able to develop something with a strategic partner. And so that's how we think that, move the costs and the time, and you're right in that venture capital sweet spot.
So if you look at software innovation cycle, where you whip out your credit card, go to Amazon Web Services, what's the counterpart of that for energy, right? And it could be connecting with a large company where you run a pilot and they're paying for it, or you're making money. So it's non-dilutive, you're getting the stuff done you want, but you're not taking that huge amount over a much longer period of time.
Okay.
Is there any way to connect to people who are thinking about projects before the class has started? So let's say they needed like an engineer, and you're an engineer, but you don't know like who's going to be taking the course. How can you get connected?
So get connected to Dan Sambor, S-A-M-B-O-R, and he actually has a spreadsheet, right, of exactly those people. And you can, do some speed dating through all the people who are on the list, both the idea and their backgrounds, right? And also the kind of ideas. You can also come with an idea. It's perfectly okay. He gave 2 examples of loosely formed idea, awesome team, right? Or the inverse of that. So you don't have to have a well-baked either one. You can have a team that has 2 people, really great, seed for it, and a well-formed idea, and then grow that team, or you can come in the reverse direction. SAMBOR, I believe. Thank you.
And there's also any of these emails up here. Get out your phone now, and basically we'll kind of route you in. There's a lot of different ways you can ask around to kind of get plugged in there, but any of these emails certainly work. If you have any interest of any quarter, of being a part of it, we'll make sure that you're on the list and talking to you about projects that are coming together and things like this.
We should say that we know you're early and you have a lot of stuff going on with your advisors and so on. And so think about this as kind of the early part of the pipeline. Just keep this course in mind. You may find for some of you want to come in a little bit earlier, but this may be something, 3 quarters from now, right? That becomes interest, where you've been cooking an idea for a while and you want to get engaged at that level. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Tom.